You ever feel like you're stuck? Like you're doing all the right things, reading the books, watching the videos, but not getting anywhere? Well, entrepreneur Iman Gaji has a totally different take. He says success isn't about adding more habits. It's about what you need to cut out. In this explainer, we're going to break down his three-part strategy for building real wealth by focusing on what you need to give up.
Gaji's entire philosophy really boils down to this one simple idea. It's not just about the big, flashy moves you make, your offense. It's about protecting what you've got. I mean, think about it. You've got guys like Floyd Mayweather, who was known more for his incredible defense than for knocking people out. Or Warren Buffett, whose #1 rule of investing is never lose money. Gaji argues that the real path to wealth is building a defense so rock solid that it's almost impossible to fail. And this slide just nails that distinction. Your offense, that's all the stuff you actively do to get ahead, right? Learning new skills, grinding on your business, all that. But your defense, that's about what you stop doing. It's about plugging the leaks, those bad habits and weaknesses that are just quietly draining all your progress. If your defense is strong, your offense doesn't have to be perfect because you're already protected from your own worst enemy, which, let's be honest, is usually yourself. And here's the brutal truth of it. Without that strong defense, every step you take forward feels like you're taking 2 steps back. You're basically trying to fill a bucket that's just riddled with holes. All your hard work, all your progress is getting sabotaged by these leaks. So let's dive in and identify the 3 biggest leaks Gaji says we need to plug. All right, the first sacrifice Gaji demands is a big one, especially in our culture. It's drinking. Now that might sound pretty extreme, but his argument is that most young people have absolutely no idea how much this one single habit is wrecking their most critical building years. Gaji basically describes alcohol as a full-on assault on your potential. It's not just that it clouds your mind or destroys your sleep. It literally hijacks your decision-making, you know? It leads to those impulsive, emotional choices that you regret later. And think about it. Every dollar you spend on it, every morning you waste with a hangover, that's a direct gift to your competition, the person who's staying sharp and focused while you're not. And for Gaji, this is personal. He tells this powerful story about hitting rock bottom on New Year's 2017. That was his turning point. He decided to quit drinking cold turkey. For the next 2 years, he went into what he calls monk mode. No partying, no distractions, just an insane amount of focus. And the result? By the end of those 2 years, he'd made his first $1 million.
So his rule is brutally simple, and there's no wiggle room. Do not touch a single drop of alcohol until you have $1 million cash sitting in your bank account. It's a hard line in the sand. His point is, until you hit that benchmark, alcohol is a luxury you just can't afford. But here's a really key nuance. He's not saying this is a lifelong ban. Gaji actually points out that at the very highest levels of business, a lot of deals and friendships are built over a glass of fine wine or whiskey. So the sacrifice is for the climb. It's for the building phase. Once you've made it to the top, you can reassess.
Okay, on to the second sacrifice. And let's be real, this is probably the most controversial one, relationships. Now, to be clear, Gaji's point isn't to avoid women entirely. It's about strategically avoiding the huge time and energy drain of serious dating while you're in your prime building years, especially in your early 20s. He lays out this 2-step process. He calls a man's 20s the build phase. This is the time to be absolutely obsessed with your physique, building your finances, and finding your purpose. Just lock in and work. Then, once you've built that solid foundation, your 30s become your glory years. That's when you can present the absolute best version of yourself to the world. Gaji's logic here is, well, it's provocative, but it's direct. He basically asks, if you can't attract your ideal partner right now, why would you waste all that time, energy, and money dating? Why would you potentially settle for someone who doesn't match your ultimate vision? Why not invest all that energy into becoming the person who can attract that ideal partner down the road? Now, just to be super clear, this is not a call to become a hermit, okay? He actually stresses that social skills are super important. The strategy is simply to avoid the deep investment of time, emotion, and money that a serious relationship demands, and to pour those resources into building yourself instead. All right, on to the final sacrifice. And this one is different. Gaji argues that unlike drinking or dating, which you could potentially reintroduce later in life, this is a mindset you have to give up for good, not just to get rich, but to stay rich. So what is this permanent sacrifice? It's the trap of keeping up appearances. You know exactly what this is. It's buying designer clothes you can't afford, leasing a fancy car that just bleeds your bank account dry, and posting a life on social media that isn't even real. Godzi calls it a sad existence, because deep down, you know the truth. You're living a lie.
So what's his antidote to this trap? It's a simple, but really powerful rule. Save and invest 70% of every dollar you make. This isn't just some loose guideline. It's a hard system that forces your wealth to grow. It's really the ultimate defense against lifestyle inflation and that constant temptation to spend.
This slide just perfectly captures the huge psychological shift you have to make. Someone who's a slave to appearances buys the Rolls-Royce to get likes and impress other people. But someone who's truly mastered their wealth, they buy the Tesla, even if it's cheaper, because they genuinely like it more. The whole goal is to have your decisions driven by what you actually want, not by needing a pat on the back from other people.
And that's the bottom line here. This is the one trap you have to escape and never, ever go back to. Giving up that need for appearances is the only way you can truly control your money, instead of letting your money and the opinions of others control you.
So, when you step back and look at these three sacrifices together, drinking, serious dating, keeping up appearances, what do they all have in common? They're all about playing the long game. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a strategy of delayed gratification, and it's designed to build a foundation so solid that your future success becomes a question of when, not if.
And you have to be patient. Gaji is very clear about this. This is a 10-year-plus journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about showing up day after day and consistently choosing that long-term gain over the short-term pleasure.
And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? The whole philosophy comes down to playing defense. If you want to build an empire, your number one job is to make sure your own ship doesn't have any leaks. You have to protect your mind, your time, and your money from these three huge drains.
So the final question isn't really about Gaji, is it? It's about you. If your life is a game of defense, what are the leaks in your own ship? What are you letting slip through the cracks that's quietly sinking your own ambitions?